Salutations. I am Marduk, and this is the Epic of Gilgamesh, translated by Marine Kovacs. This is the 11th tablet of the Epic. In our last tablet, Gilgamesh basically crossed half the world in a boat, meeting first an innkeeper who pointed him to the ferryman, and the ferryman who brought him to Utunapishtim and his wife, who are the immortal and sort of live in this, it's the underworld or something. It's a long journey and it's very difficult to get to. Gilgamesh asks him about immortality and explains his fear of death and such, and Utunapishtim doesn't have much comfort for Gilgamesh, and basically tells him that when we're born we will die, and that's just kind of the way it is. So, notwithstanding that, Gilgamesh is our hero, and he's undeterred, and he moves on, and we will continue into Tablet 11. Begins. Gilgamesh spoke to Utunapishtim the faraway. I have been looking at you, but your appearance is not strange. You are like me. You yourself are not different. You are like me. My mind was resolved to fight with you, but instead my arm lies useless over you. Tell me, how is it that you stand in the assembly of gods and have found life? Utunapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, I will reveal to you, Gilgamesh, a thing that is hidden, a secret of the gods I will tell you. Shurupak, a city that you surely know, situated on the banks of the Euphrates. That city was very old, and there were gods inside it. The hearts of the great gods moved them to inflict the flood. Their father, Anu, uttered the oath of secrecy. Valiant Enlil was their advisor. Ninurta was their chamberlain. Ennugi was their minister of canals. Ea, the clever prince, was under oath with them, so he repeated their talk to the reed house. Reed house, wall, O men of Shurupak, son of Ubartutu, tear down the house and build a boat. Abandon wealth and seek living beings. Spurn possessions and keep alive living beings. Make all living beings go up into the boat which you are to build. Its dimensions must measure equal to each other. Its length must correspond to its width. Roof it over like the Apsu. I understood and spoke to my lord Ea. My lord, thus is the command which you have uttered. I will heed and will do it. But what shall I answer the city, the populace, and the elders? Ea spoke, commanding me, his servant. Well then, this is what you must say to them. It appears that Enlil is rejecting me, so I cannot reside in your city, nor set foot on Enlil's earth. I will go down to the Apsu, to live with my lord Ea. Upon you he will rain down abundance, a profusion of fowl, myriad fishes. He will bring you a harvest of wealth. In the morning he will let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. Just as dawn began to glow, the land assembled around me. The carpenter carried his hatchet, the reed worker carried his flattening stone. The men. The children carried the pitch. The weak brought whatever else was needed. On the 5th day, I laid out her exterior. It was a field in the area. Its walls were each 10 times 12 cubits in height. The sides of its top were of equal length, 10 times its cubits each. I laid out its interior structure and drew a picture of it. I provided it with 6 decks, thus dividing it into 7 levels. The inside of it I divided into 9 compartments. I drove plugs to keep out water in its middle part. I saw the punting poles and laid in what was necessary. 3 times 3,600 units of raw bitumen I poured into the bitumen kiln. 3 times 3,600 units of pitch into it. There were 3 times 3,600 porters of casks who carried vegetable oil. Apart from the 3,600 units of oil which they consumed, and the 2 times 3,600 units of oil which the boatmen stored away. I butchered oxen for the meat, and day upon day I slaughtered sheep. I gave the workmen ale, beer, oil, and wine, as if it were river water, so they could make a party like the New Year's festival, and I set my hand to the oiling. The boat was finished by sunset. The launching was very difficult. They had to keep carrying a runaway of poles front to back, until 2/3 of it had gone into the water. Whatever I had loaded into it, whatever silver I had, I loaded onto it. Whatever gold I had, I loaded onto it. All the living beings that I had, I loaded onto it. I had all my kith and kin go up into the boat. All the beasts and animals of the field and the craftsmen I had go up. Shamash had set a stated time. In the morning I will let loaves of bread shower down. In the evening a rain of wheat. Go inside the boat, seal the entry. The stated time had arrived. In the morning he let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. I watched the appearance of the weather. The weather was frightful to behold. I went into the boat and sealed the entry. For the caulking of the boat to Puzuramuri, the boatman, I gave the palace together with its contents, and just as dawn began to glow, there arose from the horizon a black cloud. Adad rumbled inside of it. Before him went Shulat and Hanish, heralds going over the mountains and land. Eragal pulled out the mooring poles. Forth went Ninurta and made the dikes overflow. The Anunnaki lifted up the torches, setting the land ablaze with their flare. Stunned shock over Adad's deeds overtook the heavens, and turned to blackness all that had been light. The land shattered like a pot. All day long the south wind blew, blowing fast, submerging the mountain in water, overwhelming the people like an attack. No one could see his fellow. They could not recognize each other in the torrent. The gods were frightened by the flood, and retreated, ascending to the heaven of Anu. The gods were cowering like dogs, crouching by the outer wall. Ishtar shrieked like a woman in childbirth. The sweet-voiced mistress of the gods wailed, "The olden days have alas turned to clay, because I said evil things in the assembly of the gods. How could I say evil things in the assembly of the gods, ordering a catastrophe to destroy my people? No sooner have I given birth to my dear people than they fill the sea like so many fish." The gods, those of the Anunnaki, were weeping with her. The gods humbly sat weeping, sobbing with grief, their lips burning, parched with thirst. 6 days and 7 nights came the wind and flood, the storm flattening the land. When the 7th day arrived, the storm was pounding. The flood was a war, struggling with itself like a woman writhing in labor. The sea calmed, fell still, and the whirlwind and flood stopped up. I looked around all day long. Quiet had set in, and all the human beings had turned to clay. The terrain was as flat as a roof. I opened a vent, and fresh air, daylight, fell upon the side of my nose. I fell to my knees and sat weeping, tears streaming down the side of my nose. I looked around for coastlines in the expanse of the sea. At 12 leagues there emerged a region of land. On Mount Nemush the boat lodged firm. Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. 1 day and a second, Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. A 3rd day, a 4th, Mount Nemush held the boat, allowing no sway. A 5th day, a 6th, Mount Namush held the boat, allowing no sway. When a seventh day arrived, I sent forth a dove and released it. The dove went off, but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it circled back to me. I sent forth a swallow and released it. The swallow went off, but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it circled back to me. I sent forth a raven and released it. The raven went off, and saw the waters slither back. It eats, it scratches, it bobs, but it does not circle back to me. I sent out everything in all directions, and sacrificed a sheep. I offered incense from the Mount Ziggurat. 7 and 7 cult vessels I put in place, and into fire underneath, in their bowls, I poured reed, cedar, and myrtle. The gods smelled the savor. The gods smelt the sweet savor, and collected like flies over a sheep sacrifice. Just then Belitil arrived. She lifted up the large flies, which Anu had made for his enjoyment. You gods, as surely as I shall not forget this lapis lazuli around my neck, may I be mindful of these days and never forget them. The gods may come to incense offering, but Enlil may not come to the incense offering, because without considering he brought about the flood and consigned my people to annihilation. Just then Enlil arrived. He saw the boat and became furious. He was filled with rage at the Igigi gods. Where did a living being escape? No man was to survive the annihilation. Ninurta spoke to valiant Enlil, saying, Who else but Ea could devise such a thing? It is Ea who knows every machination. La spoke to the valiant Enlil, saying, It is yours, O valiant one, who is the sage of the gods. How could you bring about a flood without consideration? Charge the violation to the violator. Charge the offense to the offender, but be compassionate, lest mankind be cut off. Be patient, lest they be killed. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that a lion had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that a wolf had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that famine had occurred to slay the land. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that pestilent era had appeared to ravage the land. It was not I who revealed the secret of the great gods. I only made a dream appear to Atrahasis, and thus he heard the secret of the gods. Now then, the deliberation should be about him. And Lil went up inside the boat, and grasping my hand, made me go up. He had my wife go up and kneel by my side. He touched our forehead, standing between us. He blessed us. Previously, Utunapishtim was a human being, but now let Utunapishtim and his wife become like us, the gods. Let Utunapishtim reside far away, at the mouth of the rivers. They took us far away and settled us at the mouth of the rivers. Now, then, who will convene the gods on your behalf, that you may find the life you are seeking? Wait, you must not lie down for 6 days and 7 nights. And as soon as he sat down, with his head between his legs, sleep like a fog blew upon him. Utunapishtim said to his wife, Look there, the man, the youth who wanted eternal life. Sleep like a fog blew over him. His wife said to Utunapishtim the faraway, Touch him, let the man awaken. Let him return safely the way he came. Let him return to his land by the gate which he left. Utunapishtim said to his wife, Mankind is deceptive and will deceive you. Come, bake loaves for him, and keep setting them by his head, and draw on the wall each day that he lie down. She baked his loaves and placed them by his head, and marked on the wall the day that he lay down. The first loaf was desiccated, the second stale, the third moist, the fourth turned white, its fifth sprouted grey mold, the sixth is still fresh. The seventh, suddenly he touched him, and the man awoke. Gilgamesh said to Utunapishtim, The very moment sleep was pouring over me, you touched me and alerted me. Utunapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Look over here, Gilgamesh, count your loaves. You should be aware of what is marked on the wall. Your first loaf is desiccated, the second is stale, the third moist, your fourth turned white, its fifth sprouted grey mold, the sixth is still fresh, the seventh, suddenly he touched him, and the man awoke. Gilgamesh said to Utunapishtim, "The very moment sleep was pouring over me, you touched me and alerted me." Utunapishtim said to Gilgamesh, "Look over here, Gilgamesh, and count your loaves. You should be aware of what is marked on the wall. Your first loaf is desiccated, the second stale, the third moist, your fourth turned white, its fifth sprouted grey mold, the sixth is still fresh, the seventh at that instant you were awake." Gilgamesh said to Utunapishtim the far away, "Oh woe! What shall I do, Utunapishtim? Where shall I go? The snatcher has taken hold of my flesh. In my bedroom death dwells, and wherever I set foot, there too is death. Home, empty-handed." Utunapishtim said to Urshanabi the ferryman, "May the harbor reject you. May the ferry landing reject you. May you who used to walk its shores be denied its shores. The man in front of whom you walk, matted hair, changed his body. Animal skins have ruined his beautiful skin. Take him away, Urshanabi. Bring him to the washing place. Let him wash his matted hair in water like Elu. Let him cast away his animal skin and have the sea carry it off. Let his body be moistened with fine oil. Let the wrap around his head be made new. Let him wear royal robes worthy of him until he goes off to his city, until he sets off on his way. Let his royal robe not become spotted. Let it become perfectly new." Urshanabi took him away and brought him to the washing place. He washed his matted hair with water like Elu. He cast off his animal skin, and the sea carried it. Oh, he moistened his body with fine oil. He made a new wrap for his head. He put on a royal robe worthy of him, until he went to his city, until he set off on his way. His royal robe remained unspotted, and it was perfectly clean. Gilgamesh and Urshanabi boarded the boat. They cast off the Magalu boat and sailed away. The wife of Utunapishtim and the faraway said to him, "Gilgamesh came here exhausted and worn out. What can you give him so he can return to his land with honor?" Thus Gilgamesh raised a punting pole and drew the boat to shore. Utunapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, "Gilgamesh, you came here exhausted and worn out. What can I give you so you can return to your land? I will disclose to you a thing that is hidden, Gilgamesh. I will tell you, there is a plant, like a box thorn, whose thorns will prick your hand like a rose. If your hands reach that plant, you will become a young man again." Hearing this, Gilgamesh opened a conduit to the Apsu and attached heavy stones to his feet. They dragged him down to the Apsu, pulled him. He took the plant, though it pricked his hand, and cut the heavy stones from his feet, letting the waves throw him onto its shore. Gilgamesh spoke to Urshanabi the ferryman, saying, "Urshanabi, this plant is a plant against decay, by which a man can attain his survival. I will bring it to Uruk Haven, and have an old man eat the plant to test it. The plant's name is, 'The Old Man Becomes a Young Man.' Then I will eat it and return to the condition of my youth." At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. Seeing a spring and how cool its waters were, Gilgamesh went down and was bathing in the water. A snake smelled the fragrance of the plant, silently came up and carried off the plant, while going back, sloughing off its casing. At this point Gilgamesh sat down weeping, his tears streaming over the side of his nose. "Counsel me, O ferryman Urshanabi, for whom my arms have labored, Urshanabi, for whom my heart's blood has roiled. I have not secured any good deed for myself, but have done a good deed for the lion of the ground. Now the high waters are coursing 20 leagues distant, and I was opening the conduit. I turned my equipment over into it. What can I find to serve as a marker for me? I will turn back from the journey by the sea and leave the boat by the shore." At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. They arrived in Uruk Haven. Gilgamesh said to Urshanabi the ferryman, "Go up, Urshanabi, onto the wall of Uruk. Walk around. Examine its foundation. Inspect its brickwork thoroughly. Is not even the core of the brick structure kiln-fired brick? And did not the 7 sages lay out its plan? 1 league city, 1 league palm gardens, 1 league lowlands, and the open area the Ishtar temple. 3 leagues in the open area of Uruk it encloses." And thus ends Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this journey into our distant past. So, take care.